I saw 4 dead children this morning heaped on a stretcher. One of them was about 80 months old, and I could tell this because his feet were the same size as my own son's. The rest of him was so thin and tortured that he no longer looked human. I'm told that he died from diarrhea after eating poison leaves, because there was nothing else to eat. In other words, he starved to death. Of course, he didn't have to die, but unfortunately, the cost of keeping him alive was inflationary. Some milk powder and a handful of grain every day would have cost at least 20 pence. I must apologize. This really isn't appropriate New Year television, is it? Especially with all our own problems of inflation in Britain. Indeed, before I came here, I was told many times, don't do Bangladesh, people won't watch it, they'll switch over. And of course, I can sympathize with people who do switch over, because I realize that I and other reporters have helped to immunize people against Bangladesh by reporting their horrors year after year. But I do ask you to watch this film, because I believe that possibly the greatest famine in recorded history has now begun here, with tens of thousands of people already dead and dying and suffering. I also believe that Bangladesh could become the world's most ignored tragedy, because Mr. Kissinger and Mr. Brezhnev have now agreed on a world doctrine in which a country like Bangladesh is expendable. It has no oil, it has no real strategic value, it has no military power, it has no practical purpose. All it has is people who now wish to live.
Today is an average day in the streets of Dhaka, now the most desperate of cities. More desperate, I'm told, than even Calcutta and Shanghai in the 30s. In normal times, this lorry collects the bodies of a few dozen destitutes. Now it collects hundreds of bodies, all of them starved to death, including this 11-year-old girl whose name was Hasna, who died in the gutter a few hours before we arrived, with her mother and brother beside her, still with nothing to eat.